This is for people who want triggers or to know a little bit more about a book before they read it. And this month I am highlighting The Case of the Forgotten Letter, which is the second in the Mrs Hudson Investigates shorter mini-adventure series. So first of all, we're dealing with grief, Watson's grief and family lost. And it's the found family of Watson and Sherlock and, of course, Mrs Hudson in this case. And it is set after Reichenbach Falls, where Sherlock Holmes has been unalived by Moriarty at Reichenbach Falls, or at least that's what happened in the original series by Conan Doyle. The story starts out dealing with Watson's depression, or melancholia as they used to call it in Victorian age, and grief basically, and Mrs Watson and Mrs Mary Watson and Mrs Hudson are trying to help him get through that and work his way through, because he has to learn to deal basically with life without his friend and cohort. There's also low-level physical violence and violence between men and women, or more women on men in this case. It is a Victorian mystery, so it is set within those realms, and there are sharp, pointy, stabby things, and falling from a great height if you've got a problem with falling and that triggers you, and a letter beyond the grave, which brings up the grief again for Mrs Hudson at this time. So that's just a quick rundown of some of the tropes and the triggers that are in the second book in the Mrs Hudson Investigates series, The Case of the Forgotten Letter.